hates you.
Hello and welcome to Everyone Hates You, a podcast with me, Michelle Shaughnessy, where we talk about rejections and failures, two things I know far too much about, which is why I started this podcast. Today, I have in studio with me my friend and comedian, Bobby Mair. Thank you.
You've got a great podcast voice.
Thank you so much.
That's not really about failure, but that is, I would say, like, I feel like I was listening to Serial.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I like
didn't
that.
know.
Thank you. No, I feel like I do too. Like, I've been watching back some of the episodes I've recorded, and I'm like, my voice doesn't sound that bad. Like, I think I found something about myself I don't hate, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Because I was very self-conscious about my voice for a long time because the few clips I did post online, a few of the negative comments were about how annoying listening to my voice was.
Really?
Yeah. Which was fine. As long as they didn't call me ugly, I was okay with it. But then I got really annoyed with my own voice.
Yeah, people always say I'm too loud.
You're very loud.
I'm not that loud. Am I?
Yeah, you can be.
Oh, yeah, I've been told multiple times, and it's the only time I've ever heard this expression. People say, you have voice modulation issues.
Is that like the volume of your voice?
Yeah, the volume of your voice.
I have that too. I yell a lot.
It's like I'm trying to be heard. I'm sorry.
Sometimes I just tell people I have hearing issues, so then they drop it, and I don't.
That's a good... I'll pretend to be deaf. Actually, for a deaf guy, I sound great.
100%.
Yeah.
Your volume is perfect for a deaf guy.
That's good. That's great. And they'll be like, wow, really? You've learned to speak that well, even though you can't hear. I'm like, listen, and I can read lips. You'd never know. I'm succeeding.
Yeah, we're both succeeding depending on what your level of success is. But you're doing pretty great right now. Like, we'll get into rejections and failures in a bit, but I feel like we do need to talk about your viral clip that went pretty crazy. I'm sure. Have you done interviews on that yet?
Well, I have. That came out of failure, though.
It did.
That came out of a gig. So, for people that don't know, I had a clip that did well. A video I made did well online, and it was about 8 years ago. I said 10 years in the video, but I was actually wrong. It was 8 years ago. I got it wrong. I was on stage in Birmingham, just kind of bombing, and someone shouted out "chicken wire," and I said, "What?" And then for the rest of the gig, they shouted "chicken wire, chicken wire, chicken wire." This group of people, and it was really humiliating and embarrassing, and it was a weird word. And I said, I will sit here for the rest of my life unless you tell me what this means. And they wouldn't, and it ruined the night. And then I left thinking, oh, it was terrible. And actually, that got, for context, that room, that's not even the worst gig I've had in that room. Another time I was on stage in that room, and I was booed off stage, and it was like one of my first gigs in the UK. Okay. I get booed off stage, and I think, oh, I'm done at this club. But luckily, the show manager, when he wrote the show report, blamed the audience completely.
Oh, that's nice.
So the next week, I got a call, and the booker felt so bad, she gave me lots of gigs.
Oh, so wow, you're so lucky.
I bombed my way to the other side.
Okay.
If I had just done average, I wouldn't have ever got booked by those clubs again. But luckily, I did so badly that they assumed I was good at it.
Okay.
I didn't deserve to be booked more. That was probably my worst failure in this country. And so I'm in that room already hating it. This guy's shouting "chicken wire, chicken wire, chicken wire," and I'm like, this is, ugh. But I leave thinking, okay, at least it's over. And then for the next 8 years, every time I post on my Facebook fan page, which back then was, Facebook might be a bit out of fashion now, but then, and still Facebook, biggest social media platform, I had a lot of people on there, I'd post, and then this guy would comment, he found me, and he'd write "chicken wire, chicken wire, chicken wire," every post. 8 years. And I'd had enough. So I went on I found him because he used his real name. I went on his LinkedIn, and I figured out where he works. So I drove 150 miles to Dudley, where he's from, outside of Birmingham. And I went to the EE in Dudley. There was 4 of them. I was quite worried about it because I only had an hour and a half of Dudley because it was 4 hours to drive there, 4 hours to drive back. And I had to get back to take care of my kid. So I had an hour and a half in Dudley. And I walk into this mall and I see him.
Did you recognize him from his profile?
Of course I did. I knew his head. His giant bald head, from a lineup, I could have picked him out. And I went in with my cameraman, Jody, and I just got in his face and I shouted, "Chicken wire, chicken wire, chicken wire." And then I left. And everyone's like, "Oh, did you talk to him?" All these people say, "Did you talk to him afterwards and find out what it means?" And I was like, "No." if you're at war with someone and you strike back, you don't stop and say, "Excuse me, why are you attacking me?"
So you still don't know what it means.
I don't care what it means.
So you feel more at peace with it now.
I
You don't
feel
need
at
to know
peace
what it
with
means. Okay. So in the clip that went viral of you shouting at him,
Yes.
he looks like he took it in stride. But how was he really?
He laughed very hard in the moment.
Okay. And then did he contact you after?
Then I didn't put this on my socials out of respect for him, because I have a small amount of respect for him. But then his brother did message me and say, what did he say? He said, your little stunt got my brother fired from his job. Show that to your 1.7 million views. And actually, it's on like probably 3.5 million if you add up all platforms now. But I said, so then I messaged the guy because he followed me on Instagram after I shouted chicken wire at him. So I had another way in because on Facebook you couldn't.
Right.
You can't message them. So I can never actually message him. So I messaged him and I said, I heard you got fired. I'm sorry. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to carry this joke on. And then he was just worried he might be fired.
So he didn't get fired.
He didn't
So
get
his
fired.
brother's a liar.
His brother's a fucking liar. And they're a family of trolls. And, if you fuck with me, I'm going to get you.
Yeah, I'm learning that. I mean, it's not that I didn't think you had it in you. Like, none of that clip surprised me. I guess I'm just the only thing I found shocking was that it took you so long to finally do something about it.
I just never thought, it took me that long.
Yeah.
The idea of how to get him.
So does he still follow you?
Yeah. He didn't even like block me afterwards. So you could still feel, because I didn't release his name because that's like doxing someone. And I
agree.
But I also didn't blur out his face because I forgot. Like I didn't think.
Has he been contacted by other outlets since this came out?
I don't think so because
Okay.
his name hasn't been mentioned anywhere.
Okay. I was wondering about that.
No, but I never said his name or anything.
It's still really funny.
I did say he works at the E in Dudley.
But there's 4 of them, so you didn't say which one. So I feel like you're okay. I feel like you did everything to safeguard this man.
Yeah,
where I would not have been so kind.
Yeah.
But I don't get, that's annoying what he did for 8 years. But it's not as bad as some trolls.
No.
I could be, depending on what chicken wire means.
No.
Right?
I don't think it would be harder to get revenge against a troll who just shouts death threats at you.
Yeah, that would be pretty scary.
Yeah, like that's not, this was such a light troll. The lightest, oddest trolling.
The only reoccurring troll that I have is there's this guy, and it's all on Facebook, which is why I think it's a boomer. Every post he posts a photo of, that Muppet Janice that's really overdone with the fake lips, and he posts that photo.
That's so mean.
Yeah, so he posts that photo under every post that I'm tagged in on Facebook.
You don't block him.
No, I don't care. He doesn't have
But he's saying you look like Janice.
Sure, whatever. I mean, I'd rather look like Janice than animal. You know what I mean? It's all relative. If I had to pick a Muppet to look like, that would probably be the one. Even Miss Piggy would hurt me a little, So that one, I don't mind. But his profile is just a cartoon, so I don't even know who this person is. So I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole to try to find the IP address and all that. And then I was like, what am I doing? Why do I care? Why do I care so much who this person is? But I just wanted to see if it was someone I knew. But I Googled what his profile photo of, and it was some British cartoon from the 60s or something. So I think it's an old man. And it started when I was on tour with Ed Byrne because he would post a pre-show pint photo of us. So it's one of his followers. So I think it's somebody older. And the fact that they're only on Facebook tells me it's probably somebody boomer or above.
Yeah.
And
above? What's above?
Older than a boomer.
What's above?
Older than a boomer.
I think above boomer is dead.
No. That's the silent generation is still alive and well. They're in their 70s and 80s.
Well, is that the war?
Yeah, I think so.
Is that people born? I thought the boomers were 40s right after the war.
Second war.
Second World War.
So that'd be the 40s and 50s.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? But there's people
the 30s.
Yeah. They're still kicking around. Barely, but they're still around.
I doubt you have an 80-year-old troll.
You never know, right?
Yeah.
But
that's impressive just for their use of tech.
He also, the only thing he called me was a no mark, which I've since Googled, which just means somebody that doesn't matter.
What is it?
So that's the only reoccurring troll that I have. I've had other trolls just be like, you suck. And I'm like, okay. I don't
no
care.
mark.
Or people be like, you're ugly, you're fat. And I'm like, okay.
What people always say, what we said at the beginning, people always say to me, you're too loud. And they'll comment it, even if I have a video online do really well, I'll feel good about it. They say, stop yelling. And it's I've tried
Why don't they just turn the volume down?
I've tried to not yell on stage. Do you know what happens? People don't laugh as hard. When I yell, they laugh harder. The same words, they laugh harder when I am expressive with my voice.
Okay, I get that. But people can also just turn the volume down. So it's weird for
They
people to
could.
complain about volume in clips unless it's like a TV show or something.
Yes, that's true.
It's weird.
Well, you can also turn a TV down.
Exactly.
The
But
technology
yeah, but
exists.
sometimes, you know what I mean? If you're watching a show and the volume gets messed up
understand,
between episodes or something. But I do feel like when it comes to like viral clips and stuff, it's almost like people want you to tailor it right for them. And they don't really understand that, like, you know, you're not going to take that feedback and be like, oh, thank you. I'll lower the volume of my voice and repost the clip.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll try my best here.
Have you had a lot? Because I remember when I first moved here, there was another clip of you that somebody took years ago and decided to post on Reddit years later.
Oh my God, that was a horrible.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, we could talk
Okay.
about that. That was, well, it wasn't. It was just. So I was at a gig. I think I know what gig it was. I think it was in Tunbridge Wells, but I'm not even 100% sure where.
It was a pretty old video, was it not?
I think it was like probably 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I was on stage and I kind of bombed, but I had done all my material and bombed. And then at the end of the gig, I just gave up. And I don't remember exactly what I said, but it's in the video. I chastised the audience and said, "I'm good, you're terrible, fuck you." That was the vibe, which is not like, doesn't look great, but also like I'd done all my best jokes and they didn't laugh. And then I was like, "Fuck you, I'm good at this. Don't sit here and act like I'm like, this is good."
Yeah. So you snapped.
I snapped.
We all have this
And
moment.
then what I found out recently was someone had filmed that gig, but then just put the ending of the gig, not all my material,
Okay. Like where you snapped.
where I snapped
Okay.
online with the subheading "Worst Comedian in the World." And it just sat on E-Bombs World, which who knew that still existed, and YouTube, garnering traction for years.
And you didn't know.
I had no idea. My name wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
And then Lad Bible picked it up, didn't name me, and then there was just an article like, "Is this guy the worst comedian in the world?" And I had no idea what. So then I still hadn't seen the article, and for a couple days, people kept tweeting at me saying, "I don't think you're the worst comedian in the world." I'm like, "What does that mean? Why would you say that?" And then eventually someone sent the article, and I was like, "Oh, okay." But I didn't. For months, I was like it felt bad. It felt like, that's not good. Like, especially if at the time nothing. I don't have. It's not like I had millions of people being like, "We think you're great," and then a few people saying, "We think you're the worst comedian in the world." At the time, all that was coming at me was people either confirming I was or was not the worst comedian in the world.
Okay.
And it does hurt. It doesn't feel good. And I would actually like to find the person that filmed that video
I hate when people film videos at
and
shows.
film their worst moments.
Yeah. And I just think it's rude when people film at shows. Like, I've had to tell people a few times, can you please not film? And they just don't care.
Actually, that'd be another good video. I find that person.
You should find that person.
Because and then I could film them doing their job and say they are the worst at their job and try to get that to get traction, see how they feel.
Can you do that? Let's do it. I want to help you with that.
Yeah, I'd have
And then
to
we
track
can
down
come
who
back
they
on the
are.
podcast and talk about that again.
Yeah.
What if that's just your niche, though, and then people keep trying to piss you off
Getting
online so you'll
revenge.
show up at their job?
But then what if people start trying to get revenge against me? That's my worry. If I keep putting revenge out into the world, I've been perfect in my life. Someone can come back and get revenge against
what do
me.
you think if somebody was like, "I'm coming for Bob. I'm coming"?
I've
for revenge.
shouted at people on trains. I've had mental breakdowns in public.
You've had mental breakdowns in public.
Yes.
Like what level of mental
Yes.
breakdown? Can I just
Big
say,
mental
this is really fun
breakdowns.
because a lot of guests, it takes a while for them to go into their failures and rejections, and you just came loaded.
It's most of my personality.
I enjoy that. It's what I like about you.
Okay.
Yeah. So breakdowns on trains, because I think about it a lot. I definitely have been on the cusp of breakdowns in public, and I definitely think about it. Like, what would happen if I just had this breakdown
Okay.
right now?
It's hard to subtextualize and get, the specifics of it are a bit messy. But you know, like when you're ever in public where somebody like bumps into you and you think, I want to shout in that guy's face and jump in front of this train.
100%.
Well, I had about a year where I acted on those impulses.
You didn't jump in front of trains.
I didn't
though.
jump in front of a train.
Okay.
But everything but that. There was no filter in between my thought and then what I would do.
Okay.
It was like I was led by instinct, and my instincts are quite dark, and they're not fun. So that was until I got like intense therapy that kind of broke that cycle. I was just a real live wire.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I remember it's hard to find the fun examples because some of them are just dark, you know, but the one fun one, I was on a train and I had put my feet on the seat of the train. Now, I'm in the wrong. You're not supposed to be your feet on the seat of the train. I get that. But my mind was collapsing in on itself, and I was still working. So I'm on my way to a gig, and I'm just sitting there really feeling like the world is just crushing me. And this lady beside me goes, "Can you take your feet off that seat?" I was like, "Oh, do you want to sit down?" She's like, "No, just don't put your feet on the seat." And I was like, "What does it matter to you?" And she was like, "Well, your feet are dirty on the seat." Like, you don't know that my feet are dirty. My shoes are clean. She's like, "Take your feet off the seat." And then I did put my shoe in her face.
Yeah, that's...
And say, "Does it look dirty to you?" And then the thing is, other people on the train then were like, I think they could recognize I was unwell.
Okay.
And they could also recognize this woman was like...
She was probably unwell too.
This woman, she was unwell in a more quiet, acceptable way.
Right.
I was unwell in like someone's going to call the police way. And the other people on the train could recognize, like, stop poking this bear. Don't just leave him alone. He's all right. He's all right. So these other people would kind of like just broke us up and said, "Just both of you be quiet. Like, just leave him be." But yeah, a lot of that. Just where you're like, "Whoa, that was if I wasn't white, I'd be in a jail cell right now."
Yeah, okay. So your privilege saved you.
My privilege definitely saved me. Yeah. Yes.
Do you have those breakdowns still, or are you more able to regulate them?
Listen, now I can regulate my emotions.
Can you?
Someone bumps into me, I say, "Hey, have a good day."
Do you?
No, I do in the moment. Then 8 years later, I get revenge against them.
Fair. Okay, I like that. I like the revenge story. I feel like that's lighthearted revenge, though.
Yeah.
Because if anyone that I wanted to get revenge on, it would just be too big and too dramatic. So I'm definitely a fan of the revenge, but I feel like if I went to that dark place, I would never come out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to do it too much because then I feel like that's the energy you're putting out into the world. But once in a while, it's good.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're right about the worst comedian in the world thing. I could get them. That feels good to think about.
You should get them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you okay?
No, I was just waiting for you to ask me a question about failure.
You just looked really like you were really thinking about something.
I was thinking about failure.
Do you think about failure a lot? I know we've had. I mean, I've known Bobby. This is you. I've known you the longest out of all the guests so far because I don't really know a lot of people in this country for longer than a year and a half, which is how long I've been here.
Makes sense.
But I met you. How long ago was it?
Well, I started comedy 18 years ago, and you probably met me.
I probably met you 18 years ago. Yeah. And you've always been very kind to me. I've always found you very kind. And when I moved here, you were also very realistic, which I appreciated. You gave me a lot of reality checks,
I don't
which
think you
was really
liked
nice.
it.
I didn't like it.
You really didn't like it, but I was just trying to, be like,
But I think for me, I need to stop equating money with, well, do I? Because when I don't have a lot of money, I feel like a failure, no matter what else is going on in my life.
Oh, me too, though. The thing is, I don't think I necessarily give off that vibe.
You don't give off that vibe.
But I 100% do.
Okay.
So if my self-esteem is so entwined with how much money I have.
Me too.
The number. It's not even like about the life I'm living. Because the thing is, the life I live when I have like 10 pounds as opposed to like 30 grand.
Oh, mine are vastly different.
But for me, it's not that different. Maybe I have more Deliveroo. That's it. That is, or more just like eating out, more, but I don't drink, I don't do drugs. I look at my clothes. My expenses are not high.
Okay.
So, but the number does really affect my self-esteem and my feeling of, I guess, safety. So if I'm like, if the number in my account is like just dropping, I just start to panic. And I feel like I'm being abandoned. It's so weird.
That's weird.
It is weird.
So you've got like a fear of abandonment with money almost.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I feel like money makes me feel safe.
Do you think that has to do with, like, you didn't grow up with money, right?
No, I didn't grow up with.
So do you think that has to do with that?
Of course.
Yeah.
I had a couple periods in my life where my parents were very poor for like a year or two. And just that terror. Like, they didn't like protect me from it. So
Yeah, looking back, it's weird, like how often my parents were like, "We have no money, we don't know," and I'm like, looking back, I'm like, "Are you supposed to tell your kids that,
guess
or are
they
you
really
supposed to
had
like shelter them?"
I guess they had to lay it down because you were like, "Can we get that?" And they're like, "We cannot." Like, I remember this was a really bleak. This is a bleak memory, but I remember being like 11, And I feel for I don't talk about my mom that much. She's dead. But I
didn't even know that.
Yeah. My adopted mom. My biological mother is also dead. But my adopted mom, so I'm talking about. So I remember being like 11 or 12. And we were at a water park, and there was no money.
Mm-hmm.
There was no money. Like, it wasn't like we were just like had a bit of. There was no money, and I wanted a pretzel, and my mom was like, "We can't get a pretzel." It was like a $4 pretzel, and I remember just like harassing her for this pretzel, and her like crying.
Oh gosh,
making my mother cry because I so wanted a pretzel because I was so already addicted to like, just like. Shitty food.
Yeah.
That I was craving a fucking pretzel. And then she ended up buying me the pretzel even though she couldn't afford a $4 pretzel. And I didn't even like it.
Oh God. No wonder you have this like abandonment issues with money because it ties back to your mother.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, oh, I feel fucking terror.
And
when I think I don't have any money. But the reality is I know how to be poor really well and I'd be fine no matter what.
So do I. I think for me, I resisted going back to that. Like, 'cause I was so poor in my 20s. Like,
I remember.
I was so poor. I used to buy everything at the dollar store. Like, so going back to like having to be more frugal it's been tough, but it's also been kind of fun in a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like finding sales and stuff like really excite me now. But it's definitely made me feel like a failure on top of the failure I already felt like for things not really going that well career-wise. So just combining those two. Like if I had a ton of money and I still wasn't getting booked for things, I wouldn't give a fuck. I would take my money and I would sit on an island and be like, later losers. Like I would not give a fuck.
But I think when we're talking about failure, there is a subtextual issue, which is your definition of failure.
100%. Like I'm doing better than a lot of comedians.
I think with career, it is if you're someone who is used to beating yourself up.
Yeah.
If that's how you live your life, you're always going to do it. So the reality is we're two people who make a living doing comedy and live like decent lives and we eat good food and we go where we want to go generally. Mm-hmm. We are probably in the 98th percentile of comedians.
Yeah, but that makes me sad to think about too.
The 98th percentile is great. So
no, but it still makes me sad because it's like if we're in the 90th percentile, is this just what our life is?
Yeah.
And that makes me sad.
No, but the discomfort you're feeling, that feeling of like, oh, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
Has nothing to do with money. That's just you.
No, I don't.
You think it's the money, but it's you. I knew you when you were poor at 22. You didn't talk about money then.
I didn't have it.
No, but you didn't think about it. Wasn't money. It was you. The same angst. The same angsty vibe.
You know what's weird though? I
think
for me, when I quit drinking, I got really well. There was about a year of a little bit of depression because you realize all the stuff that you haven't dealt with because you were drinking.
Course.
But then I got really happy and I was like, oh, everything's solved now. And then that wore off. It's almost like the freshness of being like this healthy, sober person.
Cloud, yeah.
It wears off.
Yeah.
And I think that I've been chasing that feeling since then. And I don't really know how to get that feeling again. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Did you deal with that in your sobriety?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people always told me that getting sober was gonna solve all my problems. And let me tell you, I wish I never quit.
Really?
Yeah, because I quit doing drugs and I quit drinking and I got way less happy. It turns out I was doing drugs and drinking for a great fucking reason because I was self-medicating.
Yeah.
And then I just took that out of the equation and I didn't have any medication anymore. So I had a complete mental fucking breakdown. It's like, oh, thank you. Thank you, mental health advice.
Are you on medication now? Can I ask that?
I'm not currently on any medication. The medication never really, to be honest, the medication didn't do the trick for me.
Like antidepressants, you mean?
It would when I was quite anxious, the antidepressants take the edge off the anxiety. But they didn't do the trick.
Yeah, I didn't it wasn't for me either, but the one drug that I do love that nobody in this country will give me is like benzos, like Valium.
Yeah, you're not gonna give me fucking
Ativan.
benzos.
I get them every time I go home. I stock up and bring them back.
The one drug I do love is the most addictive
okay,
drug.
but why is it so easy to get in Canada? Like in Canada, I get them.
Because you probably have some doctor.
I have 3 different doctors I do around that.
Why is it so easy to get? Because you buy from drug dealers.
No, they're really strict. No, not drug dealers. These are doctors.
Yeah, because it's
they're doctors.
Substance.
One of them is a doctor that does insurance for film and television.
I bet he does.
So we just call him and he's like, "What do you need?" And he's like, $85 $1.85 and it'll just show up at the pharmacy and you'll have all your Valium for the year. But it's so hard to get here. And I find that my anxiety is coming back tenfold because I never took them every day. It wasn't like a drug addiction thing in the sense that like I'd need to pop them to feel.
No, I know,
but whenever I felt that panic or that fear coming in, I would take a few Ativan or take a Valium and I would be fine. I'd be fine. And now that I cannot get that in this country, I'm finding I don't know what to do with my anxiety. And it's bringing out a lot more fears that I didn't even know I had, if that makes sense. Like the success thing's a big one. I always had that. But like now,
you are success. It's like the 90. You're in the 98th percentile, and you're spending your time obsessing on not being in the 99th percentile.
Yes. But isn't that a good thing?
No.
Because I don't want to be complacent. Because when you're complacent.
You can, but it's choosing to create a lot of misery. Like you're just creating misery within yourself. But you can do the same actions. You can start the podcast. You can, go and do shows, put clips online. You can try to achieve it without telling yourself you're a failure within that.
I don't even know. Some days I don't feel like a failure, but it's not even so much feeling like a failure thing for me. It's the fact that, like you said, you can create that yourself, which is what I'm doing, but I'm angry about it. Does that make sense? Like I'm angry about it. I'm angry at myself foremost because I should have been doing this a year ago. But I kept waiting for somebody to help me. I kept waiting for somebody to save me, whether that be financially or emotionally or, professionally. I kept waiting for that.
You
thing
wanted
to save
somebody
me.
To just come in and say, "I'll do it for you."
Exactly. And then when that didn't happen or it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to, I became very angry.
But isn't it great to do it yourself and to feel like?
No, it's not.
But you're learning skills. You're achieving. The thing is, perspective.
When did you become so fucking positive?
But I am. Perspective is just a choice. The thing is, perspective is such a choice. The thing about me having this mental breakdown I'm talking about, where all I could do was obsess about the negative in my life, like in a way I couldn't control. And you just realize the story you tell yourself is how happy you are.
I go through periods where I do that. I got really into manifesting.
Yeah, there we go.
And this was before I accepted that I was poor and I hired a manifestation coach.
I love that.
This is the problem.
What happened was you manifested your own poverty by giving all your money to a manifestation coach.
And a psychic. She was great. And I was supposed to start sessions with a professional healer this month.
That's funny.
So I was on a wait.
Oh, Michelle, you're so funny.
I was on a waiting list for 6 months to get in with this professional healer.
What a con that is.
Forgot about it. And they called me and they're like, "Are you still coming to your appointment?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't have money anymore." I was like, I can't do this. And they were like, "Okay." It was supposed to be like 300 pounds for like an hour once a week to like heal me.
But I mean, I've spent thousands on therapists. And they
do not like therapy. I've talked about it a few times on this pod, and I've talked about it with you. I
boring.
Fucking hate it. It's not even that it's boring. I feel like I'm immune to it.
There's also no evidence that it works. Psychotherapy. Show me the study, guys.
Listen, it works for some people, and that's great.
But show me if it's a medical thing. Show me the study that says psychotherapy, just sitting there talking about your problems, makes them better. Show me the study because. You go and you sit in this fucking room, because I did behavioral therapy, which is completely different.
I would just cry after, like I didn't understand the point because I would leave feeling worse about myself.
Yeah.
And I would leave feeling like there was no point in talking about that stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, why am I paying somebody money to come home and cry for 2 hours after every week? Like that did not make sense to me. So I stopped it. But I did give it a good try. I've tried it a few times, but I really tried here. And I've
given it many tries. I had this therapist, and I've had a lot of loss in my life, just death. And I was talking to this therapist about death, and then I got a text from one day saying, "I can't meet tomorrow. I've fallen off my bike." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I go in to see him a couple weeks later because he's off, and I don't know what's happened. I get in there, and he is, those like. The things like you
like
see
the neck brace?
Not even a neck brace, though, like a metal thing.
Oh,
your head's
wow,
like
yeah.
screwed in. He's in one of those.
Oh, holy.
And his neck is broken. And I'm like, are you all right? And he's like, do you think you're asking me if I'm all right because you care about me? And I'm like, it's just like human decency.
You're wearing a headgear thing.
Stop analyzing. Yeah. You're just a man who looks like he's about to die. And he's like, how does that make you? It's like, this is, I think it makes sense to, okay. And then, whatever, it was hard to take him seriously when he's in the fucking neck thing and his neck's broken. And then a few months later, he was like, I can't meet again. I've fallen off my bike again. And I come in and he's broken both of his arms. And then I was like, you need to stop biking. And he was like, do you and he again tried to subtextualize that and make it about me, but it's like, yeah, but this is crazy. Stop bringing it back to me. This is about you. Stop. What are you doing? And then he kept being like, I think through talking we can handle this. And then I just did behavioral therapy where they pretty much said, if you feel this way, do this. If you feel this way, do this. If you feel this way, do this. And I did that, and then I was fine.
So that helped.
Yeah, that was great. But this sitting there, just because I asked him, I remember saying to him, I just every time I'd go and I'd spill it, and I'd leave the room feeling slightly better because I got something on my chest. And then a day later, I'm doing the same. I have the same habits. I'm in the same just like mess of shit. And I said to him, okay, how does this work? What kind of therapist are you? He's like, I'm a psychodynamic therapist. I was like, okay, break it down for me. What does that mean? Because at this point, I really felt like it's just not working. Am I unable to be vulnerable? Mm-hmm. Am I completely unable to be vulnerable enough to change myself, to affect change within myself? Am I incapable of getting better? And this was probably like 2016 or something. And he was like, okay, it's psychodynamic therapy. And what it means is the idea is that eventually we will have a bond that's strong enough that you will see me as a parent figure. And through our relationship, you will heal the wounds you have with your own parents. And I was like,
what?
Okay. That was his explanation. I was like, okay. And then like 20 minutes later, I saw him outside of the session. I was in like a Sainsbury's waiting to buy something. I saw him outside the session. He wouldn't look me in the eyes, and I was like, oh, thank you, new daddy. Like, oh, new daddy won't even make eye contact with me out of the room where I pay him to be my new daddy, but somehow he thinks we're going to have a bond strong enough to placate my dysfunctional relationship with my parents. Like, oh, this is fucking bullshit. And then I was like, oh, it's not me, actually. It's you and your weird theories.
Some people I know really are into therapy, and it really helps them. Yeah. But I feel like those people just need somebody to talk to. It's not even so much about the type of therapy. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But I also wasn't raised in a therapy household. Like, I have friends who their parents go to therapy. They went since they were younger. Like, if I said to my mom, oh, I'm going to therapy, she would be like, what is wrong? What is wrong? Like, she'd be like, I just pray, you know? Like, she's more like talk to Jesus, not talk to a therapist kind of parenting, which is probably why I need a therapist. But it wasn't for me either. So it's refreshing to hear some of your experiences too, because I have some friends that think it's insane that I'm not in therapy.
And I would just feel like a failure.
Yeah.
Before I got like the right diagnosis, the right help, I would just feel like I'm failing at therapy, I'm failing at life. And what's really happening is there's just, these people aren't the people who can help.
See, I've never had a proper diagnosis other than ADHD. I've never had anyone say, this is what's wrong with you. Because in Canada, it's different there. Like, you can just go to your GP and be like, this is how I feel. And they'll say, well, we'll just give you meds. And if they work, great. But you don't need those diagnoses to get those meds.
No, but here
you can't do that. So I can't walk into a doctor and be like, I need anxiety medication. Because they're like, oh, no, you got to go through this and through that and referrals. And it's insane.
Yeah.
So I always give up. I went private a few times and they were like, they gave me what I wanted, but they're like, you can't come back and ask for this stuff unless you actually see like a psychiatrist kind of thing, right? But it's just too expensive to go private for all those little things. But I just find it so different here and so confusing that I've just given up at every time. And I don't know if I want a proper diagnosis. I don't know if I want to know what exactly is wrong with me.
I don't think it's that. It was helpful for me at one time. That label is kind of the labels or whatever, you know. Mm-hmm. It's like 17th century medicine. Mental health treatment is like 17th century medicine.
Okay.
They're like, there's like one of four things could be wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel like
now everyone has ADHD. We all have ADHD.
We all have ADHD.
And I do. If I look at the diagnostic criteria of ADHD, I have ADHD. Would that medication help me? I might try it.
It helps me a lot. It really does.
Yeah, and maybe it'll help me. And maybe that medication is just the antidote we all need. The antidote?
Well, you know what's funny is I didn't even think I had ADHD. I just knew that the medication made you lose weight. And so I just went to a doctor and named all these like ADHD things and got the medication. And then I was like, oh, my life is so much better.
Yes.
Like, I do have ADHD.
But maybe the ADHD.
But I got the formal diagnosis since I moved here because you can't get the meds without a formal diagnosis.
Maybe ADHD meds are just what we need as people to exist in a cement wasteland with no trees.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we didn't evolve to live in this. So, okay. So if we want to live in this cement wasteland and sit and stare at a screen for 8 hours a day and feel fulfilled, maybe we need a little upper to do that.
I definitely...
Because we're not giving ourselves, and we're like, well, I exercise for a half hour today. Why do I not feel good? It's like, because our ancestors exercise constantly. Like, we're not living how any other human lived for the last fucking 500,000 years. Our evolution is not caught up with our sedentary shit lifestyle.
If you had money,
Okay.
a lot of money,
Okay.
would you handle your mental health and your breakdowns differently?
No, because I had money at the time. I could not.
No, I'm talking like money. Like for me, I feel like I've been on the cusp of a full mental breakdown so many times, but I'm waiting until I have that money to just be like, okay, everybody, I'm gone for a month for rest and relaxation and go to like one of those really fancy places for 30 days. That's what I want.
Wouldn't make a dent in me at the
Okay.
time. I was so... Actually, downtime would make me go crazy. If I was doing something, I was okay. If I was like, okay, I have to write this, I have to do this, because I was still doing comedy.
Okay, so it was just idle. Idle mind was where it would affect
mind,
you.
then my mind starts attacking itself.
Me too.
So idle mind is bad. So if I went on vacation, I'd go fucking crazy.
Yeah, I
'Cause
don't
can't
know how
just sit
people can
there.
do that.
I can't just sit
Yeah.
there and be... My worst thing on vacation, sitting on a beach. I can't even enjoy sitting on a beach. I sit on a beach on a chair and I'm like, this is fucking boring. I fucking hate this.
I'm the same way too. I'm incapable of
I don't want to
relaxing.
be in the water. I don't mind being in the water, but I don't want to sit in the sand. It's fucking... So I don't enjoy what most people would call a vacation.
No, me neither. And plus, we don't drink.
No.
So, like, most people that go to those beach vacations just lie on the beach and get drunk every day.
Yeah.
What
I
are
think
we supposed to do?
that's my missing
You know?
piece.
Yeah. And I don't.
Snort Ritalin.
I think about drinking sometimes, which I hadn't in a long time. But since I moved here, there's definitely been times where I'm like, maybe I should just have some drinks. But I know that it would just be bad eventually. Like, I know that I'd probably go a few times and be like, oh, I had a few and it was a lot of fun. But it would eventually lead to, like, bad behavior.
Yeah, the fourth or fifth.
And I wasn't that bad. Like, I never would spend rent money, or I didn't, have problems with like friends and family, that kind of stuff. It just got to a point where I never got hangovers, which was dangerous, but my hangover would be severe depression the next day. I would just be, it's such a dark hole the next day.
Oh, I was the same. I was such a miserable... because what would happen is I wouldn't drink every day or do drugs every day. When my mind kind of started to collapse in on itself, I'd be like, oh, let's get high or drunk because, I want to feel good.
Agreed.
And it would work. But then once I brought drugs and alcohol into that, sometimes it would do the trick. But then other times, now I'm just a guy who's really high and drunk and crying.
Yeah, that's not
And you're
good.
like, well, nobody wants that at their party.
It's weird.
Nobody wants that at their party when they're 16 and having a party, and then you go and you cry at the party and
I
talk
used to
about
do that.
how you want to kill yourself at a guy's fucking party in high school, and then for a fucking year you just walk around school and this girl looks at you and goes, why don't you kill yourself?
Are you serious? That happened
And
to you?
it's like, yeah, fuck you, Shaylin. I hope you're still fucking waitress.
You know what's funny is sometimes, because I feel like we're very different people, but sometimes I feel like we're so fucking similar.
No, we are the same person. You've just created this
Shell?
new face.
I will say that's like...
I guarantee if I went to where you grew up, it looks exactly like where I grew up.
100%. I grew up in Peterborough, Ontario,
Yeah, I've
which
been
is
to
not
Peterborough.
unlike Peterborough here. I
no,
went to
they're
Peterborough
the
here, and I was like, this is weird. This is like being in Peterborough, Ontario.
They are sister cities.
Yeah, it's weird.
With
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Seaforth, which is near London, Ontario.
Yeah, so we had the same type of life.
We had the same
Yeah.
type of small town,
Yeah.
waspy, just like insular lives, and I fucking hated it.
Me too.
I didn't fit in at all.
Me neither.
Growing up, I was just like and people would be like, women like because I feel like for me like I am attracted to a certain type of woman that's like maybe 1 in 100. 1 in 100 women think I'm great. However, in a small town, that pool is too small. There's none of them there.
I feel like you would do well with older ladies.
I do. I listen. I do fine with older.
I
ladies.
feel like you do well with older ladies.
I can talk to anybody. But yeah,
I feel like you're gonna end up with like a sugar mama.
that'd be.
I honestly see that for you.
I'd be totally fine with that.
Like some maybe rich old divorcee who just wants to feel fun again and loves that you're a comedian and has the motherly instinct to want to like help your life and help take care of you.
Take care of me, baby.
Yeah.
Let's party. But in a small town, like there were no. I'm too weird. So I'm just like, and then people are just like, oh, this guy. And then I moved to a city and I'm like, oh, this is where I fit. I fit where there's enough people.
Do you feel
that
like
I can
you
find my people? My people
fit in Toronto?
Yeah, I fit in Toronto okay.
Okay.
Yeah. It just needs to be a city of a few million people. I can't live any smaller than that, and I'm fucking weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that. And I feel like here, especially like in London and in the comedy scene, it's okay to be a bit weirder.
Yes.
You know? Because we're all not okay. And there's so many of us, even like a bigger comedy scene than Toronto. So there's always people that are doing way worse than us that I think it's easier to kind of blend in here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I like that. And I also like that if I don't want to see somebody, I'm probably never going to see them again. Whereas in Toronto, I would run into people.
Yeah.
It's just, I like the anonymity that comes with living in such a big place.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, imagine you have a breakup in a small town. You have to see that person for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Ugh. Like you still see your high school girlfriend every week.
Yeah, but at the same time,
store.
you and I have both been with comedians, so that's kind of the same thing.
That is true.
You know,
like
so I feel that's exactly. We're still dating within the small town, Bobby.
A very small town. A very.
Let's not kid ourselves about that.
No, I didn't think about that. That is very true.
Exactly.
It's a very small
We're still
town.
going to run into people we don't want to run into in that regard. But I do feel
You
like
just style it out. You act like it didn't happen.
you act like it didn't happen.
Yeah, you're just like, hey, nice to see you again.
Yeah, I'm not capable of that.
Well-
Have you ever been dumped?
Yeah.
In a way that it like.
It'll hurt for like 2 days and then I'm fine.
Are you serious?
I bounce back so quickly.
I don't. It takes me years.
No, but
years.
2 days. 2 days. I'm good.
And some of it I look back and I'm like, I wasn't even heartbroken about the guy. I was heartbroken about the rejection.
Now, not to say I'm friends with all my exes. I have exes who fucking hate me. But like, yeah, I was young and fucking I feel, you know, I wasn't like a great boyfriend. But most recent exes, yeah.
Okay,
fine.
that's fair.
I can just switch it. In my head, I go, oh, they're not. You're okay. It's different now.
So you've never had, like in your past, high school, 20s, whatever, you've never had, I don't know if failure is the word, a rejection from the opposite sex.
Yes, of course.
That has very affected you.
Of course I've had rejections. Listen, I once hit on a girl in a bar.
This is what I want to know.
I once hit on a girl in a bar, and then I texted her, and then, because I thought she liked me, and then she didn't reply to my message. And then 9 hours later, I was lying in my bathtub slicing my arm open. I was like, I'm not sure if this is actually a realistic response to this
How old
stranger
were
not
you?
texting me back. Well, probably like 22.
Okay. So you were an adult.
Yeah, I was an adult. But that is different than an actual. But then, so I would have those intense, like some kind of like weird trauma reaction to that. But then, in terms of just like a longer relationship, I can kind of get my head around it a lot quicker.
Okay. I like that.
But yeah, I would overreact to someone not totally.
I don't have that capability. Like, I mean, I definitely overreact, but I don't have that capability to just get over it a few days later.
Okay.
And I think that's something I need to work on. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know why I posed that to you like you were going to give me the best advice in my life to heal my heart. But I definitely I have a really hard time getting over people and rejection in general.
Because it sounds like you're actually a very sensitive person.
Very sensitive. And I love a lot. Like when I love somebody, I give them everything, which isn't good. I need to learn to like hold on to some things a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, I'm quite hesitant to give it all. I hold a lot back, I think. I don't know how to give it all. Like,
but that's probably why you're okay with breakups, because if you gave it all, you probably wouldn't be over shit in 2 days.
I give it all. I think I find it hard to be consistently vulnerable.
Yeah, I feel like I'm too vulnerable.
Like I can be vulnerable at the beginning of a relationship, but then as it goes on, I find it hard to consistently kind of feel connected and be vulnerable with a person, because I just inherently kind of just like I don't know how to do that. I don't know how. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. There's these people. It's hard. Sometimes
I feel like I wish we hung out a lot more. And sometimes I feel like we could make each other better in a lot of ways. But then
I thought
also feel like
sometimes I feel like I wish we never hung out.
no, because we don't hang out a lot, and we would if you lived closer or you didn't have a kid.
We do live like an hour and a half away from each other.
It's so far, but I do feel like we're either going to make each other better or worse, and I don't know which one it is.
I think we could do both, depending on the day.
So listen, I appreciate you coming in. This has been definitely one of the most organic chats I've had, and I really enjoy that. And you really opened up about. Did I
feel like I was on topic?
Yeah, absolutely. But I do want to ask quickly. We got to get to wrap it up, but I want to ask quickly in terms of rejections. In most of yours have been personal or based on like trolls and stuff. Have you had any rejections that really shaped you here? Industry-wise, or something that you really thought you were going to get and you didn't get?
Oh yeah, so I was asked if I wanted. This is not a rejection, but it's something. It was an opportunity that became a failure.
Okay.
I was asked to open the NME Awards, which is a big and probably 10 years ago when it happened, it was this big like award show, and I just moved here. So exciting! I'm fucking opening the NME Awards. Okay, great. So I get there. They give me a mic. They mic me up. They're like, okay, you're doing 10 minutes. Okay, great. And I walk out, and they told me Paul McCartney's in the audience. Jesse from Breaking Bad's in the audience. All these musicians who I pretended to know are in the audience. It's fucking cool. And I'm just this young kid who just moved from Canada with a duffel bag. I'm like, this is amazing. I go out, and I told everyone I fucking knew. I told everyone I knew, this is going to be great, guys. I've made it. I walk out on stage. The lights are up. Like, there's no spotlight on me. The lights are just up. People barely know I'm on stage. And 2,000 people are talking.
Oh, that's the worst.
They're not talking about me. They're just talking to each other.
I know the type of gigs you're talking about.
Because they don't know.
Those
it's an
are the
award
worst.
show.
Yeah.
They don't even know I'm part of the show. No one's told them I'm coming out.
So they just think they're just not paying attention to you.
And I had never done a gig like that because it's kind of like a corporate where you have to. I mean, there was no way to play that as a gig because they didn't know who I was. I had no status within
No, you just
this.
had to do your time and hate yourself.
But I'm just a stranger who's walked on the stage. And I said, "Are you going to pay me?" And they said, well, "You're paid an exposure." So.
Wait, you didn't know this going in?
No, I knew I was not being paid, but also I get to perform in front of Paul McCartney. Okay, what, I'm going to say no? Great. So I go up. Instantly, it's clear. I am speaking to a wall of 2,000 people talking. It is fucking awful. I'm doing my act, and it's just dead. I'm getting nothing. I'm like, this is the worst fucking moment of my life. And I can't quite see Paul McCartney, but I know where. I'm just looking in the area where he is, thinking, I am now in Paul McCartney's. I'm thinking, I'm now in his memory as an annoying loser talking while he tries to talk to his wife about his what he's going to do tomorrow and how he wants to get out of here early. Like I'm in Jesse from Breaking Bad's mind.
I feel like you're not in any of their minds.
But for a second I was.
Okay.
And I felt, so I was supposed to do 10 minutes. After 5 minutes, I was like, okay, thanks guys. Have a great night. And I just walked off stage. Then the floor manager was like, you only did 5 minutes. And I was like, I don't care.
And you're not getting paid.
I don't care. And then I just left. And then after that, NME, the guy from NME, who was a nice guy, I can't remember his name, but he emailed me and he said, hey, sorry about that. Like, it's our fault for these reasons. But we would love to do a profile on you to make up for it. Like, they offered me press.
Okay.
And I never replied because I was like, ugh, I can't be reminded.
I would have done the same thing.
I can't be reminded of this memory. So I just never replied. But it's not like it would have been life-changing, but I was just like, I don't want to think about it. And for years, I didn't tell anyone that because but the problem was I had told everyone I was going to do it because it was so exciting, And I just moved here and it's Paul McCartney. I tell everyone back home. I told everyone I met here. Guys, I'm performing in front of Paul McCartney. And then, so for weeks, every day, someone goes, how'd it go? And I'm like, oh, and then you have to, I'd tell them an abridged version.
Okay.
But not the painful.
Will you come back on the pod again? I feel like there's so much more I want to talk to you about in terms of rejections and failures. And
sure.
You've been a really good guest. I'd love to have you back again.
I would happily come back.
One thing I want to ask, if you woke up tomorrow.
Okay.
Social media was going crazy. You had a million notifications and everyone was texting you and being like, Bobby, everyone hates you. Everyone hates Bobby Mair. Is there something in your mind that you're like, okay, it's probably because of this? I
mean, me and Red Richardson do our podcast, which we've taken a hiatus from, what's called The Year Is. And you joke all the time in that, in terms of the conversation, you'll talk about we talk about history, and you talk about sometimes pedophilia would come up and we make jokes about pedophilia. And right now, that is completely socially acceptable. For some reason, it's socially acceptable to joke about the people who have sex with children. That's totally, and everyone laughs, and it's funny. If there ever comes a time where we ascribe the same empathy towards those people that we do towards like racism, which I think wouldn't be unreasonable, I'm fucking done. I'm fucking over. Understand? But if people ever turn that light upon those kind of jokes, I am done.
Well,
I have no defense. I have no defense. There's hundreds of hours of me. There's my act. There's like, it's over. I have no defense. I'm sorry for the hours of things I chose to say week after week while laughing gleefully. I've changed now. I realize.
I love that. Thank you so much for your honest answer. I honestly really want to have you back on soon because I feel like there's a lot more that we could talk about in this regard. And I think it's good for me. This has felt like therapy in a good way. And is there anything else you want to plug or anything else you want to add for my four listeners?
Nothing to plug. Listen, next time I'm here, things will be happening. No, I don't know anything to plug. I don't know.
No, we're going to be back here in these same seats being things are worse now.
Things are worse, guys.
Thank you.
I move in with you, Michelle. Thank you.
Everybody hates Bobby Mair.
Everybody
Yay!
hates Bobby Mair.
Yeah.
Everyone hates you.